Hi everyone, my name is Cormay, and today I want to talk to you guys about getting through the maze inside the dungeon Mists of Tirna Scythe coming up in Shadowlands. So in this dungeon, after you pass the first boss, you have to navigate a maze and you go room to room. Each room is going to have mobs in it, and each room is going to have a puzzle. This puzzle is going to determine which door you can go through to advance. So to give you guys a kind of visual, here's the first boss, here's the second boss. After the first boss, you come down this ramp, you come to this first room, and there's 3 doors. Only one of these doors is correct to solve the puzzle to get through. You advance to the next room, there's more mobs to kill, there's another puzzle, etc. You get the idea until you get to the boss. This could vary anywhere from between 5 to 7 puzzles that you have to solve. So you can kind of use that to gauge how far you have to go, but also the percent isn't really normalized. There are some kind of set paths, but at the end of the day, you need to be able to solve the puzzle, especially if you are a healer. Right now, the meta is mostly that while you're tanking DPS, get to just fight the mobs, the healer runs around the edges of the room and they solve the puzzle. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys an idea of what this looks like. So when you walk up to a room, there's going to be 4 pillars. You can't see any symbols on these pillars until you get close to the pillars. Once you get close, you can see the symbol, but when you walk away, you can't see it. And so you have to go around, see all 4 of the symbols in order to be able to solve the puzzle, because you're looking for the symbol that is not like the others, and that'll tell you which door you can go through. This is kind of hard because there's basically 3 different conditions that you're trying to memorize for each of the symbols. And then also, these pillars can actually be a lot farther than they are in this first room, and it can be really weirdly shaped. So let me give you an idea of what these symbols look like. So we see some flowers, some leaves, some things are colored in, and then some things have circles, and those are basically our 3 attributes. So the first attribute or condition that we want to look at is whether or not the symbol has a circle. So this flower doesn't have a circle, this one does. The second one is what shape it is. So this one is a leaf, or it can be a flower. And the third one is whether or not it's filled in. So this one is just an outline of the shape, and this one is the filled in shape. So if we're looking above at our example here, we can see that we have 2 leaves and we have 2 flowers. So we know that can't be like the odd one out condition. And if we look at whether or not they're filled in, we see that we have 2 that are not filled in. And then we have 2 that are filled in. So we also know that is not the kind of odd one out condition. But we can see that there are 3 that have circles and only 1 that doesn't have a circle. So since there's only 1 that doesn't have a circle, we know that this is the correct door, and this will lead us into the next room. Now, if you go through a wrong door, what it's going to do is it's going to reset you right here. However, the further you get in the maze, the further back you're going to get reset, because you're always going to reset back to the first room. So if you're like in the room right before the boss and you take the wrong door, you're probably going to take like a 20 or 30 second time loss just from having to run all the way back through that maze. Okay. So a good way that I kind of like to visualize this is with a chart. So this chart is kind of just like if it's a yes, you fill it in. If it's a no, you leave it blank. So if it has a circle, then I'm going to fill in the box green for that door. If it has a flower, then I'm going to fill in the box green for that door. If it's not a flower, meaning it's a leaf, then I leave it blank. If it is filled in, then I'll fill in the box green. If it's unfilled in, then I'll leave it blank. Let me show you what this might look like in an example. Okay, so for this example, there are 2 symbols that have a circle and 2 that don't, so we know that it's not this condition that's kind of like the odd one out condition. Then there are 2 that have symbols that are filled in and 2 that don't, so we know this can't be the odd one out condition. But if we look at flower, there was only 1 flower, and then there was 3 that were leaves, so we know that this is the odd one out condition, and we know that door number 2 is correct. If you still don't understand that, I'm going to go through a couple examples. Okay, so in the second room, this is the first symbol we come upon. It's an unfilled in flower with a circle. So if we pull back out our chart, we're going to fill in it's a circle, it's a flower, but it's not filled in, so we leave that blank. And then the way I always do this is I always go clockwise, so I always go left next. And so this one is a flower without a circle that's filled in, so we don't fill that one in. We do filled in flower, and we do fill in filled. And then after that, we go to the next one. This one has a circle, but it's not a flower and it's not filled in. We leave those blank. The next one is a filled in leaf with a circle, so it'd be circle, not a flower, and it's filled in. Okay, so we do it this way. It's pretty easy to spot which one is not like the others, because this one has 2 boxes filled in, 2 without. This one has 2 boxes filled in, 2 without, and this one has 3 boxes filled in and 1 without. So we want to look at the one that is not like the others. It's the one without the circle. So we're looking at the attribute circle, and we know that it's door number 2, so we backtrack to whatever the second door was that we went through, and we would know that's the correct door that's going to let us advance the maze. I'm going to give you guys one more quick example if it hasn't hit home for you yet. Alright, so this next one, We have this filled in leaf, so we just put in filled. Filled in leaf with circle, so filled and circle. And then we have unfilled in flower with circle, so then we put circle and flower and not filled. And we put in filled in flower, no circle. Do all that. So again, we can easily spot which of these attributes is not like the other. And then we can see that only one of these was not filled in. That was door number 3. And we know that door number 3 was the correct door for us to go through. Okay, so next thing I want to show you guys is a weak door that my friend made that is really similar to this chart for being able to visualize which of these was correct. I really like the idea of having a weak door, even though I've gotten really good on beta at going around and actually memorizing the symbols. It's a real pain when you're trying to heal up your DPS and your tank and keep them alive while trying to remember and keep all these symbols straight and remember which order they were in and stuff like that. It gets really repetitive by the time you get to the 5th or 6th puzzle. Okay, so it looks just like the chart I was showing you. You left click the square to make it green, you right click it to make it gray, and you can just keep track by always going in the same direction whenever you go in a room and easily spotting which of these is the odd one out. In this case, it would be the first one because it was the only one with a circle. Thank you, Sistara, a good friend who took the time to make this weak aura. He said the weak aura it's a little bit rough right now, it's a work in progress, but he said once it gets closer to Shadowlands, he'll kind of clean up the weak aura a little bit more. There's other weak auras, there's ones that try to like predict the path you're gonna take. That one, I couldn't really get that one to work, and there was another one that's meant to be used if you have everyone in your group helping you do the pillars. But then everybody needs to have the weak aura to make that one work, so I also didn't really like that one. So if you have a bad memory like me, or you're a little bit lazy like me, maybe this weak aura will help you out. Otherwise, you should have no trouble solving the puzzle based on what I showed you. Okay, so a couple other kind of tips and tricks I want to talk to you guys about. So there's actually a way to avoid having to solve this first puzzle at all. And the way you do that is, so after you come down from the first boss, if you're a knife, first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you talk to this acorn and you get your checkpoint in case anyone dies, they don't die and release the beginning of the dungeon. But the second thing you want to do is make sure that you focus the Miss Color. This is the second boss. So once you get close to her, she's going to do some RP and she's going to go through one of these 3 doors. The door she goes through is the correct door, so you actually, as long as you're always watching her, as soon as you come down, you never have to solve the first puzzle. Okay, after that, you want to make sure you have her set on your focus, and you want to make sure you go up to this magnifying glass and make sure that you're tracking your focus, because you can actually track where she goes to see where the next door is in the next room, depending on how far away she goes. It doesn't always work, but most of the time it does. Okay. So we're going to see that she goes through this door, so we know this is the correct door and that we just get to DPS with our friends and we don't have to go do the puzzle. And then after that, we want to watch closely on the minimap. So right now she's in the second room. She's in the second room and we can see that there's 3 possible doors in the room. There's one right here, one right here, and one right here. So we want to watch and see where she goes. And right before she gets kind of like out of our field of view, because after she gets like right here, it will keep tracking our focus target on our minimap because she will have outranged us. So we can see that she's going through this door. So now we know that when we get into the second room, we don't have to solve this puzzle and we don't have to solve this puzzle. We just get to focus on healing and adding some DPS to our overall damage meter, which owns. So yeah, you want to make sure that you can do that. Another thing I want to talk about, so a lot of people when they get towards the end will open their map and be like, oh, this door leads to the boss and we already went through like 5 rooms, so this must be it. So I'm just not going to do the puzzle, I'm just going to go through here because I know it leads to the boss. A lot of the time that works, but it doesn't always work. Specifically in this example, I went through like a normal to do all this. This wasn't actually the correct door. This was the correct door, so just because you see a door leading to the boss, don't just assume that it's the right one. You still have to do the puzzle unless you're like really sure that you have the right percent and you recognize the pattern, which might happen as the expansion goes on. You want to make sure you actually check, because in this case it was actually this door. We had to go in this room, kill more mobs, and then the next door that led to the boss was the correct one. So that's just a little bit of a word of caution. Okay, so thank you guys. I hope you guys found this helpful in being able to solve the puzzle and don't get lost.